couple of days there could be an election in April. I can't see that myself, given the avalanche of redundancies. But nevertheless, what is the prospects for the election? This is very important for us. The underlying position, economically and socially, is explosive. There will be convulsive movements of the working class. But of course, the working class looks for a political alternative on the electoral phase. If it goes to 2010, it's virtually certain Labour's fate will be sealed. The government could even collapse prematurely. Such are the tensions in British society. There's no chatter in the capitalist press of creating a national government. And by the way, what's the difference between the parties? Three wings of the same party, as Dave Nellis has pointed out in meetings like this in the past. The Liberal Democrats are even carrying out war games, believe it or not, described by that genius of theirs, Vince Cable, war games of how they would negotiate with Tories and Labour in the event of a national government. It's not likely before the election. We cannot, however, rule it out, but it's an indication of the catastrophe of the situation that exists at the present time. One thing is absolutely clear: the 2010 election, or the election whenever it takes place, is an election to lose, given the economic position, the social catastrophe that exists today. It is a poison chalice. The working class will be called upon to take cuts. It will be a bit like what's happened in Ireland, which then provoked mass movements and a general strike. If a Tory government comes to power, we will be once more discussing the theory, the tactics, the strategy of the general strike. They will attempt to play off one section of the working class against another. They're already doing it. Those bloated, privileged state and local government employees. Pensions will come under an assault once more. Even those who've had gains, like in the PCS, they will be challenged in the next period by this government, never mind by a Tory government. And then, of course, there is the spectre of the BNP that we'll discuss this afternoon. It's not an accident that the ruling class, in one of their concerns in this situation, is they've drawn analogies with the 1930s. And particularly have pointed to the fact that the Nazis, in a period of extreme crisis, of a southern crisis in a way, doubled their vote between 1930 and 1932. It's entirely wrong to think that the Nazis in that form could triumph in this period. There's not the social reserves for them. There'll be opportunities for the working class to move and change the situation before they have a chance. But a small reaction in a small way, in a sense, in the form of the BNP, is there. It's a threat, and there's a big consciousness now of workers and youth about this threat. That's why this initiative that's been launched by the RMT is important in this respect. By the way, when they mention the 1930s, they mention the spectre of the Nazis. They never mention that it was preceded by revolution, the threat of revolution in Germany and the possibility of revolution, and the marvellous movement of the Spanish workers in 1936, when they had 4/5 of the power in their hands. That's not mentioned. But they don't mention it because of the fear of revolution and the radicalisation of the working class. We have to combat the BNP in every form, ideologically, of course, in terms of action, but even on the electoral plane itself. The Labour Party is unlikely to shift towards the left. Peter Taaffe is making a few left noises now about having to change our narrative, whatever that means, by the way. Harriet Harman has been presented as a Bolshevik with a knife between their teeth by sections of the press. I mean, the idea is absurd. Notwithstanding the denunciation of Simpson, the new Mass Workers' Party is coming back onto the agenda. We've entered comrades a decisive era. I return to the opening remarks of Einstein in closing in relation to imagination. We must have the imagination, based upon a solid analysis that we've done, to see that the working class will struggle, as they did in Lindsay, where the leadership is provided. We have to see that without us, big sections of workers are pondering what's happening and are trying to learn the lessons. We have to see have the imagination to see how we can grow in this situation. It's been a hard struggle in the in the organisational session itself. We have to drive to 2,000 members. That will be difficult, but it's achievable. From 2,000 members to 4,000 members in this period is not as difficult as what we've done in the last 15 years. If we do that, once we do that, in this situation, we will become an important factor in the situation. But we are preparing for this struggle. The bourgeois and their shadows in the movement are also preparing. At the moment, it's ideological. But make no mistake about it. Threatened with a revolution, they will attempt to resort to the male fist. It's no accident. The enormous security apparatus that the British and the Welsh bourgeois are building up at the present time. Oh, this is the most surveilled society in the world, with 4 million CCTVs. Of the way the police have been beefed up, and the way there's been an attack on civil liberties at the present time. They're preparing in the same way as we are preparing for the struggle that will come. The working class will fight. They have no alternative in a situation that's developing in Britain and worldwide. The ruling class are fearful for their system, but they will not voluntarily evacuate the scene of history. They have to be helped off the scene of history. That's only possible with a mass party and a mass working class that's committed to a clear alternative and particularly a struggle to change society. You can learn that in time the working class will win if it has the necessary mass party and leadership. The task of us at this conference is to build such a party, the embryo of such a party, is to shape a leadership, a new leadership in a way, from the raw material of the young people who are coming into our ranks, who are facing this period, which is an enormously exciting period for socialism and Marxism. This century will be entirely different to the last century. That was a century of revolutions, but of failure. The 21st century can become a century for socialism and Marxism. We're now going with the grain of history. Let us seize all the opportunities here, and through the discussion and the debate of this conference, let us lay the basis for a stronger force that can